And here we are again. Now, um, the reason we're starting every single day with a drawing that's already there and then modifying the drawing is because basically that's what I'm doing with my life right now. That's I'm going through that stack and and trying to make useful stuff out of all of it because it's quite the stack. Hi, Stellar. And so this one, whenever I share a picture made on this nice, nice expensive drawing paper, people say "woo" and "ah" and "oh, you've got to leave that alone." It's just so extra special nice. It is absolutely nothing different from all the drawings I show you, except that it's done on a better sheet of paper. Um, but it's same charcoal, same white chalk to make uh, the highlights, and same amateur mistakes that I was making with other things. So one thing, I just really stretched her too damn skinny. As I recall, the model was quite thin. She was quite young, and she was quite thin, but I just don't like her that thin. No. So we're going to augment her right through there, right through the midsection. I don't remember this model's name, which is a shame. Um, she probably moved on, doing something with her life. I would hope. She was an art student, quite a good artist herself, um, and was doing work on things like video games and stuff like that. That was her direction, and I have a good suspicion that she. Hi, Sissy. I have a good suspicion that she got where she wanted to go because she was that kind of person. Um, from what little I could tell, but I really did like her modeling. She was more one of the more imaginative ones, one of the more active. Did deeper, more flexible, interesting poses. Um, one of the few of the women who would do something that looked militant, pick up a stick and do a weapon. I have shared pictures of those in the past. I don't know that I have any left, in an unfinished state to work on. But she did do that, and that was cool. And it's kind of a funny story. She was, I don't know, 19, give or take. Yeah, 19, pretty sure. And there were a couple of guys in the class who were same age, and she was very attractive. Uh, I'm more at a remove because uh, I was already somebody that she would look at as an old guy by the time we met, even though I was in what 40s, early 40s. By her standards, by a 19-year-old standards, that's my dad. That's an old dude. So uh, there was sort of a safe distance, if you know what I mean. Even when you're talking to the girl or whatever, it's like um, it's not gonna even enter somebody's mind you're trying to hit on, like because there's just no way that's happening. So, or something like that. But anyway, I could have more candid conversations sometimes than younger guys could. They'd be more awkward, more distant. So I appreciate that. I know that that was a thing for them, and I suppose they were being, appropriate, you know, trying not to, don't hit on the model or do this and that. But I had to laugh one day when it's a bunch of young guys, three guys, and they were talking about video games. And the model's sitting there at, 6 feet away from them, stark naked, beautiful girl, their age. They're not even looking at her. They're not even drawing. They're just sitting there talking about video games from the point of view of playing and also working on graphics for video games. And they were talking about, their computers and their this and that. And this girl had just had a birthday. So I asked her what she got for her birthday, and she said she'd just gotten a Cintiq, which is a computer that you can draw directly on the screen and do your graphics right there. Um, which I guess they're making touchscreen computers now, which is a little still not quite the same thing. A Cintiq is still better than that, but um, anyways, they were expensive. They're an enviable thing if you were a young computer geek at the time. Somebody who wanted to do computer graphics. Cintiq was a really cool thing, and that got the young guys' attention, and they were just like, "Whoa, you got a Cintiq? Wow, what kind?" And then she starts telling them what kind. And they're just all excited about this computer that she had. It's not often that I look at a bunch of young, cool people and say, "You guys are a bunch of nerds." But I did. I did. So I miss drawing class. I miss getting out and socializing with people, but this is where we are, and trying to make the best of my time going through some of my old projects that I never seem to get around to, and see if I can finish them up, see if I can do something. So this is one, going through this stack and deciding what's what's something I can use, what's something I can do something with, or not. And oh dear, my wife's talking to a door-to-door salesman. Um, so yeah, I wanna get through some of this stuff that I get crazy ideas. I get a project that I say I'm going to do that, and then that project uh, starts with great enthusiasm, and then something happens that always inevitably something happens that says, "Oh, I got to put that on the shelf for a little bit," but I'm going to get right back to that. And then 3 years later, I'm going, "Oh yeah, I never picked that up again." And so I have enough work right here, right on this shelf right here to my. You can't see where I'm pointing, and still can't see what I'm pointing. The shelf behind my head. Um, there's enough work back there to last me all the rest of my life. Unfortunately, there's no way I'm going to finish it all. Um, so yeah, I don't even need to get any new ideas. People keep asking me if I'll illustrate their book or something like that. And frankly, I probably would if you were a legit book publisher with a history um, I was more certain that something's going to come of that. But speculation, no, no, I'm not going to do that. I've got my own projects. In fact, I'm going to back off on what I just said even more. Uh, if you walked up to me and said, "We're an authorized publisher of Conan the Barbarian or John Carter of Mars or a couple other titles that I would like to work on, Lee Brackett's novels or something like that, and we want you to do the artwork." Like if you say yes, you have the job and a down payment. Um, if somebody proposed, if somebody came up to me with that, um, then there's a strong likelihood that I would say yes, I will do that. Other people are going to hear that and they're going to go, "Well, dude, I got a role-playing game that's about mutant zombie, you know, monsters made out of puke or something. It's the same thing. Why don't you want to do that?" And like, that's not anything like what I just described. And yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that project. You go find somebody and do that project. God bless you, but I don't want it. Don't want nothing to do with it. But authors like Robert E. Howard, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Lee Brackett, a couple other examples. You know, this right here could be an illustration for some of those books. You could actually just say, "Yeah, we'll buy that right there," and that would work. So a project like that, I'd probably take that on because it's what I'm doing. It's very like what I'm doing. But some people think, "Well, I've got a story about a school bus that talks." That's magic. Therefore, it's fantasy. Therefore, it's the same thing. Why don't you want to illustrate that book? Because it doesn't have any interest in me, and it's just like uh, it's it's not it's not the same thing at all. I don't think they enjoy or be pleased about me depicting the school bus full of kids dressed like this. Uh, yeah, I don't think I don't think so. I don't know what I want. I want something to come down in here. I want something to go up there. Um, could just drop foliage, you know. I mean, that looks like a little uh, hedge, you know, a little bush. Could just draw that. I don't know. It looks like it could have been a building, right? Well, it looks like some mountains out in the Arizona desert too, but compromise. We'll put some kind of a castle on top of one of those mountains out in the Arizona desert. We'll give it minarets and domes. And people will inevitably say, "That looks like a penis," because they have to. Any object that's longer than it is wide is a penis. I grew a penis. No. For anyone who's planning to join us on Zoom tomorrow night, which I don't see comments from anyone yet that's been generally joining us on Zoom. But if you are, in fact, planning to join us on Zoom tomorrow night, um, we're prepared to have trick-or-treaters. And I don't know if that's actually going to happen this year. It'll be interesting. But we're prepared as in we have bought some candy, and we are prepared to hand out candy to trick-or-treaters should they materialize. So, um, the way we always do that is to set up out in the driveway. Our front doorstep is it's a little hazardous, to be honest. The little flower bed that's out there is easy to trip into. The sidewalk is like a token gesture at a sidewalk. It's only 2 feet wide, and then they stuck a damn spigot out of the wall. Where if you're walking, down the little walkway that goes up to my door, you will hit your ankle on that spigot. So we put some furniture out there. We put a little bench and a chair out there on either side of the spigot, and honestly, the main reason it's there, we do like sitting out there, but the reason it exists is so that nobody will bang their leg on the spigot, and then well, that leaves no room on the sidewalk. It takes up the whole sidewalk. So it's hazardous to walk up to my front door, and if we owned the property, we would fix that, but we're renting. So what we do on Halloween is we set up a table in the driveway and we sit over there, so the people walk up to us. Um, we're not sure how comfortable we are with that this time, so we're going to set up the table at a little bit of a distance and see how it works, just to have people walk up and help themselves. Um, that could go disastrously sometimes, but even if it does, it's not as disastrous as catching their cooties. So I think that's how it's going to be. I think that's what we're going to do. And then we'll just see how that works out. Anyhow, that's where we're going to be while we're typically on Zoom. We're going to be sitting out in the driveway. I would still like to do the Zoom call. Um, but anticipating children walking up to me in the driveway, I cannot have a picture of a naked person on the screen of my computer, because I think that would be bad. So we'll either draw something else or just not draw anything at all, and we'll just hang out and talk, which is a considerable percentage of what we do regardless. So maybe that's just what we're going to do. We're just going to sit and talk, and that would be fine. It would be fine with me. Sissy's saying something interesting. We're going to skip trick or treating this year. Our dentist is hosting a hunt or treat in his office this year. They're only letting in one family at a time and cleaning in between. We're going there, but we won't be collecting candy from the neighbors. There's more. There's more. No, there's not more. That's it. A hunt or treat. So the kids run around looking for candy, and then the office staff have uh, have paintball guns or something where they hunt them down. And John says he was taking a nap. Cool. So I I'll just contact everybody that normally comes. But I don't know if I'll even bother making the general announcement like I typically do, because I can't feasibly see a way to make the drawing thing work. So we'll do something else. By the way, when you're drawing vegetation, it's good to just make a great big shape, uh, like I did. It just took the outside, just did a thing, and just made a big shape, and then decided if that shape looked good, and then came in and started kind of carving out the leaves later on. That's way better than trying to, um, construct the anatomy of a bush from the twigs, and then put a leaf and another leaf and another leaf and another leaf. Don't do that. The office staff will be dressed and will be like an Easter egg hunt, and then they have a background set up at the end for pictures. Well, that sounds like a really cool idea. Yeah, if I, thought about these things in advance, I could do that in my front yard. Um, and but it didn't, so we're not. But that's a cool idea. And it's probably good thinking on the part of your dentist um, to set something up for his customers, and also to give your kids a bunch of stuff to rot their teeth out with so that they have to come back. That's good thinking. That's really good thinking. I'm real clear about my light source. Originally, I think it was mostly straight up and maybe a little bit that way. So I'm gonna go with that with my background. Hopefully it looks right. Sometimes you draw a background like that, like a city in the background or some other large object in the background, and it's very distant, and it looks right at first, it's right to you, and then later you come back, months later you come back and look at that and you go, no, it looks like a tiny little model sitting 2 feet behind my figure, and it's sometimes hard to say what it was, what visual trick you pulled on yourself that makes it come off looking that way, but it happens sometimes, and I almost think it's going to happen here. I don't know. I'm not sure. But for now, I'm just rolling with it. I'm gonna give it some sunlight. I'm gonna soften up all this brine charcoal. Find all the places where I forgot to go over it with a harder pencil, like down here. Got all about this. So yeah. So it was my intention to put some big gemstones in her costume here. So we're gonna do that. Put some largish gemstones. And here's a little tutorial about gemstones. Okay, can you see this? Alright, so we have an oval-shaped gemstone. And we have another oval-shaped gemstone. Now if it's opaque, such as turquoise, something like that, a shiny, nice gemstone. Alright. Should be using one of these. Alright, so you've made a nice dark shape, and then you put a highlight in it. Right? It's a shiny spot. Alright. So there's your shiny piece of opaque stone. I didn't illustrate that well enough. The thing is, it may have sort of a light color, but then it's round, so it's got a dark shadow underneath, right? And then it's got this dark highlight on it. I mean, this bright white highlight on it. So it might even be a little like that with a core shadow. So there's your piece of opaque um, gem, semi-precious stone. Now, your clear stone is exactly the same way, except the opposite. So your clear stone, you want to do your dark color up here and your big shiny bright highlight. And that automatically looks more transparent than the other one. And the reason is light is entering the same way. Light's coming down and hitting this, but on this one, it's just reflecting up here and bouncing back and making a dark shadow down here. But on this one, it's actually going inside. It keeps going and it hits the inside surface. It hits the inside of the stone in the back, uh, where it's mounted somewhere. So the light's going through it and then bouncing back through here. So it's going to be lighter down here at the bottom, or it's going to be lighter opposite of the light source, which is usually down here at the bottom. So same thing happens with a drop of water, or as opposed to a drop of tar or something like that. And so, yeah, so that. So I might or might not manage to convey that very small down here, even though it's kind of a big stone compared to her wrist. It's a small stone compared to this piece of paper. But that's what I intended to do. Some nice bright highlights right in there. And then you get the highlights on the metals and stuff. You can really overdo this. If you're not careful, you'll completely overdo it. Like I do all the time. And I love it. But in case you're trying not to be like me, don't overdo it. And the white highlight just looks super cool on the gray paper. It's kind of a very rewarding thing to do towards the end of your drawing. You can't do it early because then you're going to wind up smudging it all back out again as you're working. But it's really kind of a fun thing to do towards the end of your drawing. It really makes everything pop. It's really super nice. I'm not going to do all of it because I actually have got a lot more to do on this drawing. Susie is talking about her Easter egg Halloween dentist. They have Santa at their office every year too. They are amazing. Everyone waits in the waiting room where kids can play rather than standing in line for an hour getting antsy. And then they call families in individually to see Santa. That sounds awesome. Let me tell you about an Easter egg hunt that we had at Albertson's Grocery. Um, one year, they told the drug manager, "You're in charge of the Easter egg hunt." Well, he did not want to do that, and he had no. He was the wrong personality for that, and so he came in early. He decided to have the Easter egg hunt outside in the empty field next to the store, which was just a scabby, weedy, dirt, rocks, broken glass, litter. Um, you know, it was crap. And he had the Easter egg hunt out there, and he came in early in the morning. Because to get it out of the way, so he could get to his regular work, and he went and hid all the candy out there in the field hours before we were ready to go. And then when the the whole thing was organized and everything. All the kids were lined up, and they had a girl in an Easter bunny suit and a little thing for. I painted a thing for people to take their photo, and all that's really cool. But they're all out there, and they said ready, set, go, and all the kids ran up into the field and grabbed candy, which was all uh, blazing hot, melted, absolutely liquid chocolate, um, hot enough to burn your skin and swimming in fire ants. So everything out in the field was utterly covered in fire ants, and kids were traumatized and screaming. And that's when I arrived at work to go paint my signs, and and it was like Dante's Inferno, and everybody was screaming, and people were running around, and and then I got commandeered to help with the damage control, and basically I mean, parents clearly were as angry as it was possible to be, and rightly. And so there was like an assembly line of people cleaning chocolate off of little hands and putting together gift bags to appease these traumatized children. We gave away every piece of candy in the store, every juice box, every soda pop, every toy. we, we gave away half of the store just to keep from being sued, and and yeah, it was comically horrifying. And so the next year, they put me in charge of the Easter egg hunt, and I made a really cool maze. We did it indoors, actually, in the back room, and I made a maze that went from one door to another door, and you could come in, and I made a big cave out of foam, rubber, and they had to get down and crawl into the cave, and then they stood up, and there was this maze made of giant cardboard boxes and foam core, and every decoration we ever had. Um, we collect, a store like that collects crazy amounts of decorations. So there was crepe paper and colored uh, giant flowers and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, it was just this dizzying Alice in Wonderland sort of thing. And I made giant mushrooms, and I just airbrushed all these things, mushrooms and bunnies and egg Easter egg decorations. I mean, just all down the length of the thing. It was actually really cool, and people thought it was awesome. Um, yeah, yeah. So no traumatized children that year, but I guess we knew already that the weather was going to be bad, so I set it up indoors. So that's that. That's that for the whole week. It's a good thing because I'm gagging on my tongue or something, and I'm having a hard time talking. But have a happy Halloween. Have a happy dentist office paint gun target thing that you're doing, and yeah, be safe out there. And the Eastern Base sounds like it was so awesome. It was one of my prouder moments in that company. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it'd be a fun thing, you know. If there's a way to make a job out of that, which I don't know if there is, but it would be a fun thing to do. I found a company in Phoenix that makes foam rubber, um, and they bake it in like a loaf of bread. It's like a giant loaf of bread that goes into this huge oven. They squirt out something, and then they bake it, and it expands way up to like 10 feet. I don't know, something like that. It looks like a giant loaf of bread, and then they push it out of the big oven, and there's a huge bandsaw that they push it through, and they slice off uh, pieces of bread, and then they make like mattresses, or sheets of 2-inch foam or whatever it is you need. They just saw it off, and well, I guess they slice the edges first, so it's all square. Uh, so they have 4 foot by 8 foot or whatever, and then they run it through the saw it off. And where was I going with that? Yeah, I was trying to see what it would take to, you know, do stuff like that. Just make giant things out of foam, and I don't know, one of many business ideas that I've had to go anyway. Okay, I'm gonna leave, and all of you have a good weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday at 3 o'clock. Bye.